I have always been a fan of the cyberpunk genre, especially since I discovered it a few years ago. I think that a focus on futuristic aspects can sometimes be a guide for what we as a society should not do, especially in stories that focus on dystopia. I've had cyberpunk influence my work for the past couple of years, so it's no surprise that when I found the game Detroit Become Human, I immediately started to fall in love with it. From its world to its various story concepts, I was intrigued by what it was trying to say for the future of America and the future of technology. And there are a lot of ways to completely adore Detroit, as not just a playable experience, but as a piece of art as well. However, like many things, there are also a lot of reasons to see the flaws in David Cage's web of multiple endings and flawed allegories. Now, this will contain major spoilers for the game, which I cannot stress the importance of enough. So if you want to find it out for yourself, I suggest that you play the game before continuing this video. So in the game, there are 3 separate playable characters, each with their own story to follow. Kara is the story of a sort of homemaker android, purchased and brought into a household filled with drugs and domestic abuse. She later on fights against her programming and becomes a deviant to provide help and care to the sole victim of the domestic abuse in the household, a little girl by the name of Alice. This dynamic between these characters is nothing short of intriguing. There's a sort of maternal bond happening here between the pair that continues on through the rest of the story, sort of raising the question on who would be a better caretaker of children, humans or androids. We constantly see Kara sacrifice and put the needs of Alice before her own for the rest of her story, like what is expected of a parent. And Alice is seen as this kind of fragile being. Since Kara can be rebuilt, she can take more abuse. There's a need to protect Alice as a human. At one point in the game, the player even has the option of robbing a store just so Alice can sleep comfortably during the night. However, it's completely demolished by the sole fact that later on in the story, we find out that Alice is actually not human. Why the writers, and by extension David Cage, chose to do this is beyond me. Because of this one fact now, the entire value of the connection between a human and an android, all of the work that was put into protecting and caring for Alice is all devalued in an instant. And the only reason that this might have been seen as a logical choice is for the sake of a cheap reveal to the viewer. What makes even less sense is their excuse for why Kara treats Alice like she is a human for the entire game, saying that she just, quote-unquote, chose to ignore it. And what's even crazier is when you break down the reasoning behind why they were both purchased in the first place. I know drugs do crazy things to people, but why would someone spend a couple $100s on a child robot just so that they could abuse them? The thing is, if Alice were left to be human, the end of the story would be so much more impactful, even if the player succeeds or fails in their goals. These are characters that, for the most part, the player is trying to keep together. Ultimately, it will be within the decisions that the player makes to either see them meet their conclusion, escaping Canada and finding a new life, or having Kara and Alice being torn apart. Each have incredibly emotional scenes that are reinforced by the journey the player has taken with these characters being together. Alice being a human opens up a whole new world to the story of her and Kara. How they are even more outcasted by society as a strange family. How Alice will grow, and Kara won't. More questions pile on top as we look at these two together, but one cheap reveal tears this entire thing down.